Are there any realistic first-person shooter games that you can play? No, not really, but there are some that try closely to resemble realistic without keeping all the boring parts. Now before you start writing in the comment section, oh what about XYZ game, just give me a minute, let me explain some things, and you might even hear that game mentioned that you're just about to type. So your best option is to play a mod called Project Reality 2. There are usually 2 full 100-player international servers that you can join, and you can actually see in the background here, I'm actually playing a video of me playing it. Each game can last between 30 minutes and go up to about 3 hours. And, you know, in that time you're actually lucky to get about 5 kills or more. So, you know, if you aren't realistic, that's probably the closest thing you're going to get. I've gone rounds where I've defended a base or flag and not seen an enemy for an entire hour. Yet, you know, you need a team of 8 people just sitting there doing nothing for the entire time. You know, just chatting or looking for the enemy, basically making sure that they're not sneaking past or sneaking up to you. So, you know, in Project Reality 2, you'll be working in a squad making sure that you complete tasks given by a squad leader or commander. There's no jumping in a jet or tank and, you know, running out on your own. You need your whole squad with you, basically. You know, sometimes your squad will split up a little bit, but that's just to complete a small task. You mainly stick together. Player kits are also limited, so every player isn't playing the same kit. But there's so many kits there to choose from, you rarely play the same kit unless you specifically want to play it and no one else is playing it. The problem with Project Reality though is that you need Battlefield 2 to play it, which is rarely sold now. The official servers have gone down, not for Project Reality but for Battlefield 2. So new players really aren't coming into the game, and that's a problem. Arma 3 is the newest game, and most people would call this the most realistic, even though I feel like the mod Project Reality is way more realistic than Arma 3. This is a newer game. It was only released about 2 years ago if I recall correctly, but it's not well optimized, and it's been like that for each series that's come out for Arma. There are tons of different mods online to play, but it really depends on if there's people in your region where you live. Because if there's people, just say you live here in Australia. Now the game's actually been gaining a bit more popularity, but before, when it was in alpha and beta, there was hardly any servers because there was hardly any mods, so you couldn't really get a game with people unless you want to play something like co-op. And still then, that was pretty difficult. There is a lot more action in Arma than there is in Project Reality, and if you're not looking to completely rely on your team but still do it a little bit, Arma's the way to go. It's also the best idea if you're looking for a long-term game to play, as it's constantly being developed at the moment even though it's in full release. Lastly, some people say Battlefield 4. Battlefield is basically just Call of Duty Team Deathmatch now with tanks, boats and planes. You won't go a minute without seeing at least a couple of enemies, and that's at least. If you want constant action, then this is the game for you, because the other 2 games are team based, and this is basically you got some teammates there and you're just running and gunning, that's all it is. And if you prefer this, don't worry, the other 2 games will be happy that you're there playing Battlefield instead of running out by yourself in Arma or Project Reality. Some similar games to look up if you're interested in infantry only are Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which is by far the most popular game on PC you'll find for FPS, and Insurgency, but I won't go into details on them in this video. There's also a similar game coming out in the future called Squad. I'm not too familiar with it since it's only been recently announced, however, it's said to have some of the developers from Project Reality and it's going to be a commercial game, which means it'll cost some money. Some developers from Project Reality have also previously attempted to make Project Reality 2, which I last heard was dead unfortunately. Thank you for watching this, and if you have a suggestion for a realistic video game, leave it in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, I'll see you guys next video. From actually just using a name that's one word, like Cryptic or Zeno. But in all honesty, you should just pick a name you like and go with it. I mean, if you don't like it later on, you can change it with just a few clicks. That's what's fantastic about being online.